you know, I'm going to talk about six-word memoirs and how they're going to help us tonight. But, you know, the father thing, I've never been called the father of the six-word memoir. I like that. I do have a little quick regret story about my father, which is that on that whole Jewish overthinking, over-worrying tip, my son was due to be born in late January, and my dad was like, you know, what if there's a blizzard and you don't have a car? And have you made provisions for a four-wheel drive? And I'm like, Dad, you know, what you Jewish people do is create problems where none exist. There's not going to be a blizzard. I'm not getting a four-wheel drive. I'm going to take a cab like everybody else or a car service to the hospital who has a baby in Brooklyn. And as my wife went into labor at 11 p.m., and the snow came down on January 26th, and at 5 a.m. I called the car service. And I'm like, dude, we're not running. It's a blizzard. And the taxis weren't running, and they said to call 911, and we hitchhiked to the delivery room. I was like, fucking Dad was right. And I sort of regret actually like not listening, but I also regret that I have to say he was right. So we have postcards on the tables. And the idea is that, you know, reboot is this idea of they're supposed to get you thinking, and kind of reboot is kind of a perpetual state of being in camp, like adults in camp, talking, eating, sharing ideas. It's sort of more fun than it sounds if you don't know about it. And so when we do events, we like to have participatory stuff. So there's a postcard on your table, and we'd like you to write a regret, which we'll share at the end of the show, and post online and all those things. Now, they asked me to talk about that a little bit because I've created something called the 6 Word Memoir Project, which essentially got people who weren't used to writing about their lives to start writing. 6 words is, in fact, easy. Like, it's easier than a book. And why it works and why writing is hard is because of the form. 6 words is super easy. So regrets take many forms. Will you be coming to your cousin's baby shower? One word. No. Memoirs, many memoirs are regrets. David Carr wrote a great book called Night of the Gun. Anybody read Night of the Gun? No? It's in the house. So it was about being a crack addict and being, he's a New York Times media reporter now, and this whole crazy past, and he wrote this book about his past. And I heard him speak once, and the book's about 400 pages, and he said his editor asked him to cut 50 pages because, we get it, dude, you're an asshole. So it was just too many regrets. Dick Cheney's book, which is #1 in the country right now, was 576 pages. Not a single regret. Not a Jew. So between one word and 576 pages is your postcard. And you can write any length you want there, but as an option, I'm going to offer 6 words, and I'm going to give you some examples of 6-word regrets that have come into the Reboot Facebook event page where we took regrets on the wall and have come into Smith Magazine. And the other thing is when you start seeing short-form regrets, like I do, you see them everywhere. So Stevie Nicks had quite a storied career in the past, and I read an article in the Times with her last year, and she just said, never should have done that line. 6 words. Jane Fonda in her book says, wish I had slept with Che Guevara, her biggest regret. And she calls it her biggest regret. So here are just a few regrets. And 6-word regrets took a few different forms as I was combing through them. Some about, with the word regret, very obviously stating a regret. Some just explaining the regret. And then some sort of bigger life philosophy. So here you go, some examples. I regret not saying I do. Don't regret not marrying the Brazilian. Of 22 tattoos, I regret 1. Mom's only regret was my dad. Biggest regret, missing Teen Jeopardy tryouts. I regret going off birth control. Regretting I picked God over you. Possibly a rebooter. Another form of regret. Should have said no in the 80s. First I read it as should have said no to the 80s, but in fact it's in the 80s. Had the chance, didn't murder stepmother. Not seeing my own fabulousness. Allowed fear to direct my life. The last asshole I married. Mistakenly married a lazy, boring boy. You'd sort of just do that by mistake. chose to marry the wild one, saved receipts, threw away love letters, teaching Dad how to email me, right? My mom wants to get on Facebook. Not happening. Self. No status updates at 2 a.m. It's like a life motto. Assumed he was single. He wasn't. And I'm going to leave you with a few, and I'm really going to encourage you to work that postcard during the intermission. And, when I do six-word story shows in other cities like Milwaukee, you'll get 44 people there, and they all do a six-word memoir, and third-grade classrooms all do it. And sometimes New York people tend to be self-conscious and shy, but keep drinking and write down your regrets, 6 words or more, and really it's fun to sort of feel part of the show later. You'll regret this when I'm famous. Really regretting that last wish. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Regretful life. Regretted regrets, so have no regrets. Thank you.